All right. And we are live. Let's see. We are here. Wait for everybody to get on. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. So, waiting on everybody to jump on in as we go live. So, giving a few minutes to wait for everybody to jump on. I know it's at 8 o'clock. Everybody should be around finishing up dinner and everything. So, all right, all right. How's everyone doing? Please let us know if you can hear us. Please drop something in the chat. Let us know. Let us know. Are you there? Are you live? We're live right now. So can you hear us? Let us know where you are. If you're in a different area, if in a different location, wherever you're joining us from, please drop it in the chat. Let us know that we. All right, all right. Let us know. All right. Right. We're just going to get a few more minutes for everyone to hop on right now. Those of you joining in right now, I know it's going to all the streaming platforms. So today's going to be okay. Y'all can hear me. Thank you for those joining us right now. Please drop. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Little mic check. Make sure everybody's there. Are you there? All right. All right. I see you. I see you. Can you hear us? Just let you know. Can you hear us? All right. We can hear you. Awesome. Awesome. All right. All right. It is 8 o'clock, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today on this evening. Every Wednesday, we will be here with Mr. Eric Anderson. Hey, joining us on Master Your Money. And we're going to talk about something great today. Talk about that end of year checklist, to be able to prepare for your taxes coming up in this 2026 year. So being able to file and what all you need for to file your taxes and when the deadlines are. And so before we get off here, we want you to subscribe. You can go to the Financial Turtle, and then there will be an end of year checklist. If you go in there and subscribe, it will send you an end of year checklist, you guys. So anything that you could think of in all the dates and everything, Eric has it all spelled out for what you would need and any type of form and what type of form you would need, and whether you're a LLC, a S corp, C corp, partnership, whatever that may be. All that information is in there. So please go to thefinancialturtle.com and you will be able to get your checklist right now. So if you want to do that, please go to thefinancialturtle.com, go in there and subscribe, go in there and you will be able to get a end of year checklist. All right. I guess everybody's ready. I see you. Hey, thanks for joining us. Eric, how you feeling, sir?
I'm good, sir. Good, good, good.
You good?
Yeah,
You ready
glad
to go on vacation? You ready?
I'm ready to go on vacation, sir.
You ready to go on vacation?
Get myself charged for the beginning of the year. I like to do that every year. Go on a little vacation
Yeah.
real quick. Get a get a little rest and relaxation before the year starts.
That's good. I know you got a busy year coming up this year, right? Because I
Sure.
know it's already coming in right now with
Already
tax
coming in.
season preparing, right?
Oh, we're doing
That's
this
just a little bit we're
today.
going to talk about today, right?
Correct, because I already have clients, new and old clients, who they're already calling, asking what they need to be looking for, what they need to be preparing for January and February, especially business owners. We're going to talk about pretty much all of the different types of forms that you should be looking for if you're an individual or a business owner. And then hopefully at the end, if we have a little time, we'll talk a little bit more in depth about what business owners should be looking for and what they should be preparing for right now at the end of the year to be able to help them save on their taxes.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's go ahead and kick this off. Where should we start, Eric? Where should we start?
So,
What's the word?
For me, basically, especially with new clients, when someone calls and they say that they want to get their taxes done and they say, can they send stuff through the portal for me to get started with their taxes and things like that? They always say, what all do you need from me? And so, especially if you're a new client, if I'm not really sure, if I've never seen your taxes before, I really don't know because everybody's taxes are different. And what I mean by that is there's so many different moving parts, there's so many different forms that everyone has that I can't really just say these are all the forms that you need if I do not know you individually. So hopefully, like you're saying, if people go and they take a look at the checklist, they can go through the checklist. We're going to go through that real quick today, and these are the different things that you should be looking for starting in January. You're going to start getting all of these forms, and make sure that you put all these forms into a folder. If it's something that you're not sure that you're going to need when it comes time to do taxes, just stick it in the folder. I always tell that to my clients. A lot of clients come in and we actually open up mail when we're doing the returns because they're just saying, hey, I'm not sure if this is something that I need to actually file my return. And it's better to have too much information in that case, as opposed to a lot of times, which again, this is why we're doing this. A lot of times I'll have clients who will come in, will do the return, and then a couple of weeks later they'll call and they'll say, hey, I didn't know that I took some money out of an IRA. I have this 1099R. I didn't know that I was missing a W 2. So now I have this W 2. I did something with cancellation of some credit cards, stuff like that. I didn't know I was going to get a 1099C. There's so many different things that people don't realize that they need to be saving and having when they come to do their taxes. And unfortunately, if they don't know, and if they don't know, obviously they can't tell me what they need if I don't know you individually. And so what ends up happening is we have to amend returns. And you really don't want to do that. You want to, do your returns clean, even if it takes you a little bit longer to wait to get certain forms. You want to do your returns clean. You don't want to go through having to amend returns and things like that. It happens, but you definitely want to make sure that you have all your forms and everything that you need when we sit down to go over your returns.
Nice, nice. That's really good, man. There's a lot to prepare for. I know that when I'm preparing, I have to get everything ready, and sometimes I miss some forms. And it's interesting because as you get older and you're moving, you're doing a lot of different things. You're trying to make more investments. You're putting money into different accounts, and you're making investments in different things. You forget over time, like, oh, I'm used to doing it this way, and now I have to like pull all the stuff. I pull from some stocks, or I pull from this place, or
That's exactly.
I got a was it HSA,
SAs, so I need to get so I need
yeah, stuff like
1099
that.
SA form. Um, like you said, somebody might have some stocks. They might have something sitting in a brokerage account,
Right.
and they don't realize that the brokerage account is going to show all the dividends, going to show the interest collected. Um, Besides, even if you are moving stocks around, not actually collecting money, but if you're moving stocks around, that stuff goes into a 1099B. And a lot of people do not realize that. So they will, when they'll get not audited, but they'll get letters from the IRS saying, hey, you're missing certain information. And then the client will say, hey, I got this letter and stuff like that. And then we go back through all the paperwork that you brought. And it's like, that stuff was not in your paperwork. And so
Mm.
it's like it's things that if you're not used to looking for these forms, if you're not used to knowing that these are the type of things that you need to have and the type of forms that you're going to get when you do these certain things throughout the tax year, again, you can end up not when you go to get your tax prepared anywhere, you can end up not having those forms. For me, if I have somebody who's already been a client, usually we'll go through the prior year return when I'm going and doing the line for line, going, doing the comparison between the 2 years. I'll say to somebody, hey, you had a high yield savings account last year that had interest in it. You didn't bring that form this year. Do you still have that account? Or, you sold some stocks last year, or you had something coming out of a retirement account or something like that. Is that something that happened this year? Because again, you don't have those forms. And again, things like that happen. Somebody might, completely cash out an IRA or something like that. So they'll get the 1099R for the year prior, and then the next year they don't have it. But it's nice to be able to ask the people that, because again, you don't want to be in a situation where again you're having to amend your return because a couple of weeks later, whatever, after you filed your return, um, they come in the mail. So then we got to do an amendment on your original return. So
Good. That's good. Eric, it brings me to a question because when you think about it, so let's be real about this, right? So it seems to me, please correct me, right? I don't know if anybody watching feel this, but why doesn't it feel that most people wait till like tax season to start thinking about money? Like in finances, like like why is it seems like now I gotta start getting a handle on these things that retirement and my taxes and getting prepared. Like why is it around tax season? Is there anything that you
not
see
that
that
you're
why?
tax season, it's crazy because I get a lot of clients who haven't done their taxes for years. And I
Mm,
always tell people, if you can't pay or whatever, if that's the reason why you're avoiding to do your taxes, you need to file your return, because the worst thing you want to do is get the failure to file and all that stuff. If you don't file your return for a couple of years, whatever, you need to file your return as soon as possible. Even if you owe money, try to get on a payment plan and things like that. But I think a lot of people avoid doing their taxes because they're so afraid of what they're going to owe.
mm,
Life happens, things, go astray like that. And then when those type of things happen, we have to go online. We have to go and get your wage and your transcripts and all that stuff online to make sure we don't miss anything and stuff like that. But again, there's so many penalties and fees and failure to file stuff, that can really hurt you if you wait a year or two to just, to file your taxes. When it's the time to file your taxes, even if you do an extension and then, you file it in October, that's still better than, waiting the 2 or 3 years to file. And again, a lot of that, I believe it's mainly because, you're afraid that you're going to owe. So, you're trying to avoid it. You really don't want to deal with it. And it's sad, Isaac, because a lot of times people will come in here and will do the returns. And I mean, there are people who have even over 3 years that they haven't done returns. And it's sad because as I'm doing the return, I'm like, you got money back this year. You got money back this year. And it's like, I don't know if everybody knows this, but if you file returns over 3 years old, the IRS is not required to give you those returns. Yeah. A lot of
wow.
people know that. They're not required to give you that refund because they give you a 3-year time limit for you to file your return. So a lot of times people come in here and they're over the 3 years and their returns that they could have got, refunds that they could have got, and they lost them because they did not file the return. And again, a lot of that has to come from the fact that you were afraid that you were going to end up owing money. And a lot of times, like I said, when someone does your return legitimately and legal, because again, we're going to get into that. But somebody legitimately and legally doing your taxes, you can still end up getting a return. And that's money that you're not going to get because you waited past the 3 years in order to file.
Oh
So,
man. So if it's 3 years, right? So even if it's after 3 years, will they still like if I owe money, would they still
oh yeah, oh
would
yeah,
they'll still come get their money, but I can file to get a return?
yeah. They can go back forever if you owe.
Oh,
Sometimes
really? Okay.
if if it's over 3 years, they will apply the money like, this will cover you owe this year or whatever. They're just never going to send you money. They're never going to send you that money. Yeah.
Wow. So
Mhm.
you could just be having like they owe you 10,000, twenty
Correct.
thousand, and you would never get it.
You'll
But
never
if
get
you owe them 10 to 20,000, they will
yeah,
come get it.
correct. And that's what
Wow.
usually happens, especially if you're a business owner or whatever who doesn't do taxes and stuff like that, which is tragic because when what ends up happening a lot of times is somebody who's say you're trying to go buy a house or you're trying to do something and you never do returns. And then all of a sudden you jump up and you say, "Hey, I need to do my last 2 years of returns in order to go get a house or whatever." But what they fail to realize is when you go do that with the IRS, not only does it red flag you if you haven't done returns the other years, but a lot of times when people do that, they have to get on a payment plan. right?
Mhm.
Because you can't pay whatever the tax bill is for those 2 years. You get on a payment plan, and the IRS will not let you get on a payment plan until you filed every last return.
Mm.
So you can end up having to do 4 or 5 years of returns just to get that house, just to be able to file these tax returns and stuff like that. And again, it goes back to the fact that for whatever reason, you were not filing returns those other years because you felt you were going to owe money and stuff like that. And like I tell people all the time, it could be a real headache having to go back and do 4 or 5 years of returns. And even worse, people who do returns know you can only e-file again the last 3 years of returns. So there are people who come in here and they haven't filed their 20, they haven't filed their 2021, and we have to actually mail those returns in because
Mm.
you cannot e-file past 3 years. So
Wow.
it can end up being a huge mess if you are not up on doing your returns, on a yearly basis. So at
Wow.
the end of the day, it's just better off, again, like I said, to just, do your return. If you owe money, get on a payment plan, so you don't have to keep paying all this late interest, all these late penalties, all these failure to files. Obviously, you're going to pay interest if you're on a payment plan, but all the other penalties and failure to file and all that other type of stuff, you're going to end up having to pay that stuff if you go back and do those returns. So that's when you see a lot of people with the offer and compromise and things like that. That's come they have to do that because their tax bill gets so huge because of the fact that they're going back and having to do all of these returns in order to get on a payment plan or to do an offer and compromise and all those type of things. You have to actually turn in all of your returns. So again, I'm going to reiterate it one more time.
Mhm.
You should really try to stay up and do your taxes, stay up to date and do your taxes on time. And even
So
if you don't do it on time, do it within the year. Do it within that year. Don't get like 2 or 3 years behind on your returns.
it's interesting because I'm kind of seeing where there's a difference between, I guess, if you can shed some light on this, the difference between like tax planning and tax filing. Because
Correct.
I think a lot of folks kind of get that mixed up, like what I need to kind of plan and then like the tax filing. I don't know if you can break
Oh,
that down.
definitely. So definitely with the business owner, most business owners don't wanna do that because, again, they're not doing any tax planning.
Uh,
If I'm a business owner and I know I'm gonna owe taxes through the year, if I know I'm gonna owe taxes at the end of the year because I don't have a W-2 or something like that where some company is taking taxes out, so I'm gonna end up owing taxes at the end of the year, that's when you do estimated payments. That's when you are putting money away to pay taxes at the end of the year. A lot of times we don't do that because again, we're in the mindset of I'm living check to check, I'm struggling just to have, just to run my business, just to do my thing. And then, but if you were doing the tax planning of again, doing the estimated payments, having a separate account that you're putting, the 20 to 30% of your profit into that account so you can do the estimated payments every quarter or at least have that money at the end of the year when it's time to do your taxes if your business is profitable. We don't do that. We don't prepare to be able to do that at the end of the year. So again, that's why people who are business owners and stuff like that, they go years and years and years without doing their taxes
man,
until they want to go buy a house or something like that. It's absolutely crazy, Isaac.
would you consider that being irresponsible or I,
That's
is
a
that
word.
irresponsible?
Yeah, that's a word. It is. It's pretty good.
I
But
don't
again,
know.
said, sadly, a lot of people, because of your situation, it's crazy because you'll be like, man, the IRS should be able to catch that and stuff like that. But if you're a business owner who really isn't getting 1099, you don't have all kinds of other stuff going into your transcripts and your wage and reports, um, you can kind of fly under the radar. But I
Mm,
tell people all the time, if you call up there to get your transcripts in order to file your last 2 years of taxes to get that house or whatever, I tell them you're getting ready to get a letter because it's going to automatically red flag you. Because when
mm.
they pull your transcripts, they're going to see that you have not done taxes all these other prior years, and they're going to red flag you. So you need to get ready to start preparing to do those other years of taxes as well.
Okay. Well, we got a question from
All right.
Jeff. So, what is the no file late file penalties if you do not owe?
Okay. So if you do not owe, there are no penalties. I tell people all the time, it's like the IRS, like I just said before, the IRS doesn't want you to file if you don't owe or if the IRS owes you money, right? I just said
Mhm.
if I go past 3 years and I don't file my tax return, but the IRS owes me money, they're not going to say anything. They're just going to let it ride, right? Because again, you're paying interest on the money that you owe the IRS. So if I turn in a return late, if I turn in a return, so let's say I turn in my 2024 return right now, and the IRS owes me money, they're not going to charge me a late filing fee. They're not going to charge me the failure to file. They're not going to charge me, interest. How could they charge me interest? It's my money.
Mhm.
So there are no fees or anything like that if you file a return late and the IRS owes you money. It's if you owe the IRS money, then that's when all the penalties and all that stuff kick in.
Yeah, I think he was saying like was it S corp and personal? So the O S
So,
corp
no,
and
so there's
personal.
a difference. There's a difference. So for an S corp, even if you do not make any money, you still need to file your S corp on
Mm.
time. And if you file that late, then they're still going to charge you a fee for that. For all the corporations, the partnerships, the S corps, and things like that. A lot of people find that out. They'll turn in years and years of, like I had a client, he was in a partnership and they weren't aware that they needed to file a 1065, even though the business was making no money at all. So we just turned in some 1065s that showed they had no income. And he got letters saying that he owed thousands and thousands of dollars for late
Mm.
funeral. But we were able to do an abatement. We were able to, do some compromise and stuff like that to get it down. But I tell people all the time, there's a difference between an LLC and a corporation. So a lot of people are walking around with LLCs that they're not doing anything with. And they say to me, hey, do I need to file that LLC on my tax return? No, you don't need to do a Schedule C that shows zero, correct? Because that's just on your personal return. If I'm doing an 1120S, I'm doing 1120, or I'm doing a 1065, even if it's zero, I still need to file those every year. Because if you file those late, you will get a failure to file letter from the IRS for that. Even for the 990s as well. It's even worse for 990s if you file 990s late. They really hit you for 990s. It,
Mm.
it's crazy the penalties and stuff that they charge for
For
people.
990 because that's typically
For
nonprofit,
nonprofit.
right?
Yeah,
So
that's
they're
right.
gonna charge you more for the
They, yeah,
nonprofit
they
if when you don't file.
charge you for filing a 990 late or not filing it correct.
Man, we barely trying to make it in a nonprofit world to scrape
Yeah,
in, and
we
you're gonna penalize more.
got the letter,
Wow.
file the abatements, and go to the IRS and all that stuff for nonprofits that they file them late and stuff like that, and they get the letters for filing them late.
Wow. So for business owners watching, it's like, I guess, like, what would be like that one or few end of year move that they could actually just
So
save them some
definitely.
money right now? Like, what do they
So
need to
here's
do
the
right
crazy
now for
part
the
on that.
business
Here's the
owners?
crazy part on that. If you're in a partnership or you're in an 1120S, those returns don't pay taxes. And what I mean by that is if I'm in a 1065, so say me and you are in a partnership and the business is profitable, we're both going to get a K1, and then the K1 goes to our personal returns, and then we pay taxes on our personal returns. The 1065 does not pay taxes. The same thing with 1120S. The 1120S does not pay taxes. All the owners in the 1120S gets a K1, and the K1 goes to your personal taxes. That's why these are due in March and your personal is due in April, right? So everybody can get their K1 to put it on to their personal return. A lot of times, especially if it is your first year of you becoming an S corp or a partnership, that is due, like I just said, that is due in March. And a lot of people who come and do their returns, they'll come in and they'll say, "Oh, I'm an S corp," but we're in April. You're coming in here to do your returns, and you're
Wow.
thinking that you can file your 1120S and your personal return on April 15th, and that's not how it works. Yeah,
Wow.
a lot of people, that's like you said on the checklist, it
Yeah.
shows the actual date that the corporation forms are due. I'm sorry about
So
that.
that's a plug right there. Please go to thefinancialturtle.com so you can actually get that end of year checklist, you guys. So definitely go to thefinancialturtle.com and get that end of year checklist. Everything is all on there.
And again, like I said, what I usually do around the end of January, the beginning of February, I will send out an email to all of my clients who are in corporations to remind them that that's due in March. And if they don't have all their paperwork, if they don't have everything prepared to file by March 15th, then we can file an extension. And if you
Mhm.
file an extension, there is no estimated payment or any fee that you have to pay for that. Again, you're just filing the extension. And then obviously, if you don't get that done by April, then you have to file an extension for your personal return because that's due April 15th. And I'm going to plug that real quick because that's not in the checklist. But people need to understand if you call and say, I want to file an extension for my personal return, if you owe money, when you finally file your return, they're going to charge you interest on what you owe from April 15th. So a lot of clients don't understand that. They'll come and we'll do your return by October 15th. And let's say you owe $5,000 in taxes and you'll send in a check for $5,000. You'll get a letter from the IRS saying that you owe the interest on that $5,000. So
What?
it sounds crazy, right? But in a way, it would make sense because if they weren't charging you interest on what you owe, everybody would file an extension, right?
Mhm.
Everybody will file an extension. But when you file an extension, you are supposed to make a payment. So, like myself, because it's so busy during tax season, I do extensions. And then when it slows down, I go and do my tax returns. So, when I file my extension, I send in money with my extension. And then if I overpay, then I'll get that money back. Correct? But I
Yeah.
try to overpay because again, I don't want to have to pay interest from April 15th to whatever day it is that I file my return. A lot of people don't realize that because they'll get a letter, um, even if they filed after the extension, they'll get a letter because they'll say, "Hey, I want to start a payment plan or whatever," and it's like, okay, they'll send you a letter, or you can go online, and they'll go online or they get the letter, and the letter will show that they owe more than what it said on the tax return. And it's because they're charging you interest from April 15th. So understand if you call and say, hey, I want to file an extension on for April 15th, understand you need to be prepared to make an estimated payment on what you believe you're going to end up owing. And if you overpay it, then again, just like if I was taken out of my W 2 or whatever, if I overpay it, I'm going to get that money back. But if you don't make
Mhm.
a payment at all, like I said, they're going to start charging you interest from April 15th, not from the day that you turn the return in.
Wow. Wow. Got a question coming in right here from Jeff. It said, is S Corp penalty 250 per month?
It can get up to that. Yes, that is absolutely correct. The good part
Wow.
about that though is if everybody's ever heard of a first time abatement, so usually you can file it's 86 863 or 843, one of those two numbers. You can file what's called an abatement form. You can do a first time abatement and they will remove those penalties the first time. I had a lot of clients, again, like I said, it was their first year doing an S corp this year. And when they came, it was after March 15th. They didn't file an extension or anything like that. They came and then we had to file their S corp when we did their personal return. And I told them, I was like, you're going to get a letter from the IRS saying, you're going to be penalized because you turned the S corp in late. When you get that letter, just go in and just bring the letter in and we'll file the first time abatement form.
That's good. That's good. Thanks, Jeff, for that because I did not know that they could charge that $250 per month. I
He's
think,
correct. He's correct. Because
yeah.
like people come in April and they'll file it and then they'll get a letter saying they owe 250. So he's correct.
Ooh, that would hurt. I would hurt. That would hurt. 250 a month. Nah, no, thank you. I mean, if your business is good, doing well, but
But
I don't
that's
want to give them money. I don't want to give them money on my,
again, and
me being irresponsible or not handling business, right?
if
So
all you do is just file an extension, then like you said, you
yeah,
have till September to file it. So you don't have to worry about, the 250 a month or whatever. You file the extension. And again, like I said, with corporations, except for 1120. See, I didn't say 1120 because
Mhm.
1120s can end up owing taxes on the 1120. But 1120s and partnerships, you don't have to send in money when you do the extension for those.
Okay. Okay. I had a question because is like, what do you feel like's been like overlooked when people are like writing off stuff or something that they miss every year? Is there something that they need to do right now or plan and prepare for that would really try to help them when it comes around to, like, I guess in that tax planning season, like we're
Mhm.
planning in that to be able to file. So is there anything that would help those folks tuning in right now, just like, to do this, make sure you do that? Is there a checklist for that?
So definitely things that you could be saving taxes on that you should be thinking about right now. One, um, again, you need to really sit down and take a look at your budget and see if you can afford it. But it's not sexy to tell people to put more money into your 401k, but it can bring your AGI down, which would then bring down your taxes. Same thing as if you have a traditional IRA. Same thing, you can put money into the traditional IRA, and that's going to bring your AGI down. I try to tell clients, especially business owners, that if you have an LLC, you can even do a SEP IRA if your business is profitable. You just need to make sure that you have those things set up. Those are simple ways for you to not only bring your taxes down, but to build wealth, to build your retirement accounts and things like that, as opposed to somebody saying create a business and write off your cell phone.
That's what I was just gonna say. I was like, hey, I was just gonna say, I was like, can I just take a business and I'm gonna write off my cell phone in my office and
So
could I
really,
do that?
I really don't want to go down that road, but so that's what a lot of people do. And sadly, a lot of people don't even realize that they're doing it. And what I mean by that is when I meet with clients and it's my first year doing the return with them, I think we've had this conversation before, and I'm going over the prior year return. I'll be like, hey, did you know you were in and I'll say, hey, so tell me how the event planning business went this year. Tell me how this business went. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, your tax return says you're a business owner. You have a Schedule C that shows you had all these losses. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm not a business owner. And I'm like, well, the person who did your taxes, they created a business and wrote all this nonsense off to bring your taxes down. I'll get to that question. And so they'll write all this stuff off, all their personal expenses on the business. And that is a surefire way to get audited. A surefire way to get audited. Because again, when people say I can write these things off, you can if they are legitimate business expenses. Like Miss Watson, that is our biggest thing. Whenever me and her talk, when we come and we do her taxes, I always tell her there's so many things that you can be writing off, but she wants to make sure that they are absolutely business expenses, because you do not want to go in there and play games and say, hey, me and my friends went on this vacation. We went and did this and that, and I'm able to write it off on my taxes. And I've seen people get audited for it. I know all these influencers tell you that, you can do all this stuff. I've actually sat in the IRS office and watched people get audited for it. And I've watched them disallow it and tell them that they could not do certain things that they believe that they can do. So there's a fine line. A lot of times they won't even completely audit you. They'll just say, "Hey, this line seems this amount for this expense seems pretty big for your business. Can you just send us all the receipts for this line?" Like if you say you have a whole bunch of travel, can you just show us all the receipts to justify you being able to write off all this travel? And then if you
Turks and
don't,
Caicos might be on there.
say what?
Turks
Yeah.
and Caicos might
And
be on.
so if you do that and you don't
Mental
respond back
health.
to them, yeah, if you don't respond back to them, they just put it back on your return. And then again, it brings all your income and everything back up. And then you end up having to pay all those taxes and stuff. So again, I'm not telling you, if I started a business here in 2025, obviously people start businesses and the businesses take losses. They do. You're buying all your logos, you're buying all your marketing, You're buying software, you're buying equipment, you're doing all these type of things to try to build your business up. And, if you're doing all those things, you can legitimately write those things off. But a lot of people create businesses with no intention of the business making any money at all. They're doing it just to bring their AGI down so they pay less taxes. And I know that for a fact because, again, like I said before I started talking, I said a lot of people have no clue that these people who are doing their taxes are just creating businesses for them. And then they get audited and they're looking around talking about, what are you talking about? I had no idea that someone did a Schedule C that showed I had all these expenses. So how's that somebody with a legitimate business trying to say they're just writing off business expenses? So
Man,
that's where people
I
get
got a
in trouble.
question came in. I got a question came in from Jeff.
Hmm.
I've been using a rental property or a business. Can I write off taxes on that property or mortgage? And if so, what percentage?
So he said, so okay, so we'll say a rental property or we'll say your business use of your home. So business use of your home on your Schedule C, you can write off up to whatever the percentage is between your business and your home. I always use the example of, if I have a home that has 2,000 square feet and my office is 200 square feet, I can write off 10% of all the expenses in my home. So like he's saying, if it's a house that I own, I can write off 10% of the mortgage, property tax, interest. No, I'm sorry, mortgage, interest, property tax, insurance, as well as any type of repairs, utilities, things like that. The key though is, a lot of people have businesses that, again, aren't profitable. So on your Schedule D, which is the business use of your home, you can only write, if your business isn't profitable, you can only write off the mortgage, interest, property tax, and insurance. All the other stuff you can't write off. It can carry forward, but you can't continue to bring your business down. You can't continue to bring the loss on your business down. You writing off your utilities, writing off repairs, and all types of stuff like that. And if you have a rental property, it's whatever the rent is. You write off if your rent is $2,000, then you can write off 10% of your rent. And then all the other stuff I said, renter's insurance, utilities, all types of stuff like that as well. But again, if your business is negative, you can't write any of those things off.
Mm,
It's not going to bring your it's not going to make you more negative on your Schedule C.
okay. Wow. Wow.
So
Man, that's a lot, Eric.
So at the end of the year, like the clients I'm meeting now, when we're talking about the different type of things that you can do if you're a business owner to try to bring your profit down, a lot of people say things like, "Oh, I was told I can go buy this car, or we can go on vacation," stuff like that. You know, again, like last week when we talked about the car, you're buying things that are creating even more expense. So that kind of doesn't make any sense if I'm a business that isn't making any money and I'm buying a car just to be able to write the car off, but I'm having to pay the mortgage. I mean, not the mortgage, I'm having to pay the car note, I'm having to pay to do the upkeep, the insurance, and all that stuff. That's kind of crazy to do that just to be able to bring your taxes down. Again, like I just said before, there are other things. If we're really talking about not just bringing our taxes down, but also building wealth, why not have a conversation about opening up a SEP IRA? Why not have the conversation about having a traditional IRA? Why not have the conversation of, am I maxing out my 401k at work? Am I putting more money into my 401k? Those are the conversations that you really don't see a lot when you see these videos and stuff like that. It's always take your family to Disney World, do all these things to write your stuff off until you get audited. Until you get audited. And then when you go in there and you try to explain that, like I think I've told the story before about the young lady who she was working in an MLM and she won a cruise. And everybody was telling her that she could write off. So she won the cruise for herself, but she had to pay for her husband. And she was steadily saying to me, everybody said I can write off my husband going on this cruise. And I was like, you can't. You can't. And again, you can say I know what I'm talking about, but she's not my client anymore because she got audited and they told her that she couldn't write it off.
Man.
When she got audited, they were like, can you show us, the manifest, can you show us what you did, the manifest and all this and that of why this was a business trip? This is just something that you won. right? You won this trip, but you're trying to make it seem like it was a business trip with your husband, like your husband is in this business with you. And they're like, no, you can't write that off. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, well, everybody told me I can write it off. And I'm like, you can't. You can't write it off. And
Everybody told me that I can
everybody
write
on
it
social media and all that stuff is telling you can do these things.
off.
You get audited. And then when you go down there and you get audited and they tell you you can't. It reminds me of a video that I saw. Again, we're not going to name them. Of the video of the guy who said, the IRS doesn't tell you what you can write off. You tell the IRS what you can write off.
Oh, no.
All right.
IRS don't play. The IRS does not play. I've seen folks get garnished, like, and taking their money, and they couldn't live for months because they didn't set up the payment plan. They didn't prepare. They let it go.
They just
Right? They didn't pay attention to it. They just let it go, and then they all of a sudden they took over half their check, right, or more than that, and then they left for like $10 or $20 or something in their account, trying to make ends meet at the end of the day. And just to get that, then now you got to call them because they got your attention.
Yeah.
Right. They got your attention.
Or sadly, for like a lot of business owners, like you said, they'll wake up one day and they can't use their debit card, or they can't go take any money out of the bank because your bank account is frozen. And sometimes they'll actually take the money out of the account. So then there's no money in the account, or they'll freeze the account and stuff like that. And it's because, like you said, you're not talking to them. You're not getting with the IRS and trying to fix the situation. You're just going to let it go. Everybody ain't going to pay your taxes. What does that mean?
Everybody's not gonna pay your taxes, man. You know.
Oh yeah.
Especially. No, man. You got to. Everybody are responsible for their own taxes. And at the end of the day, you know, it's a blessing to be able to be in the position to pay taxes. That means you made some money. Correct. I always look at it like that, because you could not have any income coming in, and those other folks that probably won't have a return because they didn't work. This 2009 keeps rolling back. When that recession hit, there was a lot of people out of work for like two years, right? For a good year to 2 years, and realizing you couldn't file anything because you didn't have anything, right?
And on that, with everybody who owns a business who believes they don't need to pay taxes and stuff like that, I have seen a very sad story. And the sad story is, let's say I never work for anybody. So I start my business and I'm in the mindset of, I'm not going to pay taxes. I'm not going to pay taxes. I'm not going to pay taxes. I've actually seen people who've got to retirement age and then said, I'm going to start collecting Social Security. Why would that be a problem?
Because you didn't pay any money. You didn't have any money.
Go on and say it.
I'm gonna collect something that I didn't put in, right?
They're upset. I've actually seen people. I actually saw an article where somebody tried to sue their CPA for that, because they tried to say the CPA never told them that. Never said, hey, do you realize that if you keep on showing your business negative and you keep on not showing any money, you're not going to end up being able to get Social Security. So somebody actually tried to sue their CPA for that. So when people walk around and say, I'm not going to pay any taxes or whatever like that, I know everybody's going to get ready to say, well, Social Security is going away and all that. But what if it doesn't? What if that's a check that you were expecting to get when you got to that age? Like a client, me and a client were laughing about it today. We were talking about how they're trying to say that it's a benefit. Social Security, you act like you're entitled to have Social Security. Why wouldn't I feel I'm entitled to have Social Security if I'm putting money into it? If I've been putting money into Social Security all my life, why wouldn't I expect to get Social Security when I got to retirement age, right? But if I'm somebody walking around listening to all these people telling me that you don't have to pay any taxes at all, if I'm a business owner, so I never pay any federal, any self-employment tax, anything, then I get to retirement age and I expect to be able to get a check. Why would you believe that? Why would you think you should be able to get a Social Security check if you never paid any money into Social Security? So that's what I'm saying. When people say, what do you do? That's why I pay myself a salary through my S Corp. I have a solo 401k and all that stuff. to make sure that not only do I have a retirement, I'm going to have a pension and retirement, but then I'm also going to have Social Security. So when people say, hey, you know what? I'm going to write everything off so I don't have to pay any taxes and they're like that. Okay, cool. But then, don't expect to get Social Security.
Yeah.
Jeff. That is a thought process. That is I'm not going to today.
He say you don't want to address that. He's looking at IRS is a legal entity, but yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. Oh man,
So
definitely. I hope everyone is tuning in right now, really having some good stuff. Go ahead.
So one of the things I would definitely say to people, go through the checklist, make sure some of the biggest things that I see, there's 3 things that I won't say hold us up when we do our taxes. But number one, if you've ever had any type of fraud or anything, you'll get an IP PIN number every year. And that number is different every year. So even if you're the primary and your spouse gets an IP number, it will not let me or anybody else e-file that return without the IPIN number. Fortunately, you can go online, you can go onto irs.gov and get it, but you got to do your ID me. So we got to do all that to make sure that you can go online and get the number. But you get the letter in January every year with your IPIN number, and just go ahead and put that in your folder. The second thing, a lot of clients, they don't realize that if you have marketplace, you get a 1095A. So a lot of times, if I try to e-file your return and you are in the marketplace, it'll kick it out and it won't let me e-file your return because it says that you have to fill out the 8952 form, I believe it is, for the 1095A. So then we have to call healthcare.gov. If you can't find that form, you can call healthcare.gov and get that form. But you can imagine what that's like during tax season to try to call up there. We've had to sit for like 30, 45 minutes sometimes in order to get on there. They will give you the numbers over the phone, but you have to call up there and get it. And lastly, we talked earlier about the LLCs and stuff like that. A lot of people do not realize that if you have an LLC, and even if you do not do any business at all through your LLC, you still have to file the franchise tax report. A lot of people do not realize that. And sometimes it's really not your fault. If you are not your own registered agent, the letter actually goes to your registered agent in February. And I'm finding out that a lot of these places do not send the business owner the form telling them that they need to file their franchise tax report. And so if you do not file the franchise tax report, you'll get a letter in September, around the first week of September, saying that your franchise tax report is late. So then we have to go into the comptroller and have to file that report. People like me, we file the report for our clients, but in order for me to go online to the comptroller and file it, I need the form because the form has your tax ID number and your web file number. If I don't have those numbers, I can't go online and file it for you. So a lot of times, again, a lot of my clients, again, they're putting everything in their folder. And if they're their own registered agent, or if they somehow get it, they will have that letter in their folder. And I'll just go ahead and I'll charge them like a little extra or whatever, just to file the franchise tax report form at the comptroller. A couple of years ago, when you had to do the no tax due report, if you filed that form late, it was $50 every year. But these last few years with the owner, when only having to file the owner report, they don't charge you the extra $50. But if you do not file for 2 years, your LLC will get revoked. You've heard of that before, right?
Yeah.
And people find out when you try to go buy a house, or if you're getting paid by someone and they look up your business and they say your business is revoked. Or if you, again, like I said, I've actually had clients who were getting ready to sign the paperwork for their home, and the lender looked up their business and said your business has been revoked. So we've had to go and file all the previous years for the tax for the franchise tax report to actually get the company back reinstated. And if you have not done it in years and you say, hey, I want to shut my LLC down, They will not let you shut your LLC down until you're back in good standing and you've filed every year. So a lot of people have to go in and just do all that just to shut it down,
Just to shut it down.
just to shut it down. And
Wow.
again, these are things that are not talked about all the time, but these are the type of things. Again, like I said, I know exactly when the letter comes out because around the first week of September, a bunch of my clients will start calling me and emailing me. They'll send me a copy of the letter. They'll say, "What is this letter?" And I'm like, "Yeah, your registered agent was supposed to send that to you, or they were supposed to take care of it." I was like, I'll take care of it if I have, again, if I have your tax ID number and your web file number, especially because, again, if you make less than $2.6 million, you're just filing the owner's report. So that's how you're filing. So that's nothing to go ahead and file it. It's just the fact that even if you have an LLC that you're not doing anything with that LLC, you still need to go onto the comptroller and file it.
Man. Yeah, that's
So
a lot, Eric. That's
we were going to
a
go
lot.
over all of the different forms, but again, it's almost time. Again, like you said, people can go onto financialturtle.com and it has a breakdown of all of the different types of forms that you should be looking for: your W-2s, 1099s, 1099Bs, 1099 INT, 1099 DIV, the SSA 1090, 1095A, as I said before, 1099R, the 1099 SA, like you said, for the HSA, and then your mortgage, so your 1098. Oh, also, a lot of people, if you have kids who are in college, and I asked that question, it's the biggest deal, the hell of trying to contact the contact your child to have your child trying to find your 1098T for school. So if you have a child who's in college and you know you're going to have to file in order to get the education credits, you need to be on your child like in January to have your child go onto the website at their school and to get that 1098T as well. Because again, that's something that holds us up, is us trying to get the 1098T for your kid. And again, another one that I've seen, a lot of people will get stuff removed or do settlements for credit cards, repossessions, and stuff like that. And somehow they don't realize that even though you've done that, you're going to get what's called a 1099-C, which is cancellation of debt. And what happens is if you do not put that on your return, the IRS is going to fix it. And then obviously that's going to affect your taxes because, again, that's considered income. So if you were getting a return, you could end up not getting a return because that cancellation of debt can bring your AGI up, which would then where you would collect less taxes. And so again, it's very important if you believe that you've done those things that you bring that 1099-C in as well. So again, like I said, the best thing is any email that you get, you need to put that in the folder. I have a lot of clients who say that I never got that in the mail and things like that. That's nothing I can control, obviously, but the IRS is going to say that those companies sent those 1099-Cs in on you. The same thing, a lot of people who do contract work and stuff like that, they believe that I've done this contract work and they didn't send a 1099 in on me. I always tell people, if somebody asks you to fill out a W-9, expect to get a 1099 from them. Because the only way they can send you a 1099 is to have your information, right? And they get your information from the W-9. So if anybody asks you to fill out a W-9, you should have the expectation that you're going to get a 1099. And even if I've actually had clients call the the place that they did contract work, the place that they just did what do you call it, for the LLC and thing like that, and they'll tell them that they're not required to send them a 1099. But the point of the matter is they're still going to send it to the IRS. So if you know that you collected money, you need to put that on your return because you can get burned for that as well at the end of the year. You can't say to the IRS, I never got money from this company because they didn't send me a 1099. It doesn't work like that. All you're going to be able to do is just pull up your transcripts and you'll be able to see that you have all those 1099s that these people sent in on you.
All right. All right. Any final words, sir, as we wrap up this evening?
So definitely, as we're getting close to the end of the year, I know everybody's trying to wrap their year up and really don't want to think about it, like myself. But again, like I said, this is the time of the year where I'm meeting new clients to go over what my expectations are for them to bring to me to do their taxes next year. And a lot of the clients who there are clients who I do bookkeeping and forecasting and stuff like that, consulting and stuff like that. So we meet on a monthly basis. So it's not like we're having a rush at the end of the year. But if you're somebody who waits to the end of the year to get all your stuff together, to be able to prepare to go take to your tax preparer, you might want to sit down and try to have a consultation before the end of the year. Because again, there are certain things that you can do before the end of the year that can help you bring your taxes down. Again, not create a business and write all this silliness off. But again, things like opening up a SEP IRA, opening up a traditional IRA, things like that. It's kind of towards the end of the year, so it's kind of hard to change your W-4 at work, or to change the the percentage that's going into your 401k. But these are definitely things, when we do your tax return, when we talk about how to plan better for next year, those are the things I talk about. Hey, maybe you need to think about changing your W-4. Maybe you need to think about, if you can afford it. Again, it's not dollar for dollar, but maybe you should think about, instead of paying all of these taxes, if you put money into your 401k, less of your income is going to be taxable. So you're going to pay less taxes, but it's not dollar for dollar. So, the easiest way to say that is, if I owe $7,000 in taxes, me putting $7,000 into my traditional IRA is not going to wipe out my taxes. I know TI told you different, but it doesn't. It does not completely wipe it out. It does bring that $7,000 down. So you don't owe $7,000 in taxes, but it's not dollar for dollar. But would you rather take some of that money and build wealth as far as your retirement, or do you want to just give all the money to the IRS?
I don't want to give IRS my money. But
so those are things to think about as you get towards the end of the year. And mainly for business owners, again, really get your bookkeeping cleaned up for the end of the year, so you can have a good idea of what you believe you're gonna owe. Because even if there's things you're waiting for, so I didn't even say that part. So if I'm in a partnership or an 1120S, or I'm getting money from an estate and stuff like that, a lot of times you're going to have to do extensions because you're waiting for these other people to send you these K1s. But if you've already done all your other stuff, as far as having your business together, having all your W-2s and stuff like that, you're just waiting on those things before you file. It kind of gives you a better idea of what you need to be paying in your estimated payment when you do your extension, as opposed to just not paying anything at all. And then that goes back to what we said at the beginning, where you're going to end up paying all this interest from not making a payment when you do your extension. And then also, you have the opportunity. We're already past the third quarter, but as far as doing estimated payments, but you definitely, if you know you're going to owe taxes, so it's a little less of a burden on you, definitely make your January estimated payment. If you're somebody who makes estimated payments, definitely make sure you do your January estimated payment, the one that's due on January 15th. Wow. And you want to make your third quarter as well. They don't kill you if you pay your estimated payments late, but you should definitely, if you know you're going to owe money, go ahead and start doing those estimated payments instead of waiting until the end of the year and then trying to make one big lump sum payment or try to get on a payment plan and stuff like that. Definitely do these last 2 quarters of estimated payments to try to bring your taxes down.
Awesome. It's good stuff, Eric.
Are there more questions? No more questions?
That's all I got. That's all I got. No more questions in the chat. Anyone else had any other last questions before we wrap up? If you do, please drop them in the chat. Please, if not, you can also go to info@thefinancialturtle.com and you can email us. Definitely email us and we'll get that. If you have any other questions or any topic you would like for Eric to discuss and go over in great detail, please reach out to us. Let us know. I know we have the boot camp coming up too as well, if you're interested in that, especially for business owners as well. Yeah, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's located in Anderson, Texas. So the YouTube channel, please subscribe. And then also the end of the year checklist at thefinancialturtle.com. You'll be able to get that checklist.
So I will say I do have a prior engagement next week. So I believe that we will be doing this on Thursday of next week. If anybody has any questions or anything like that, like he said, put them in the chat or go to info at thefinancialturtle.com, and we will try to get to your questions. But next week, I believe we are going to be talking about the new tax brackets and the way that you can save money by the way that you adjust your AGI and your taxable income to get you down inside of your tax brackets. There are ways that instead of paying 22%, if you make over 100,000, again, let me clarify that it's 10 to 12%, I believe, up to 100,000, and then anything between 100 and 150, you pay 22% taxes. So a lot of people don't know the things that we talked about before. If I put money into my traditional IRA, that'll bring down my AGI and my taxable income. I didn't talk about it a whole lot today, but if I have rental property and I make under 150,000, but I go and get the roof fixed, I go and get a bunch of expenses to bring down the profit of my rental property, that'll bring my bracket down to help me from a tax standpoint as well. So those are the type of things that I'm talking about that you need to go and you need to talk to your tax preparer, to your CPA. Again, like you said before, it's not about data entry is basically what I call most tax preparers. If you go to H&R Block and stuff like that, you're going in there when it's kind of too late to already be doing this type of financial planning, and you're just handing them your forms and you're filing. If you sit back and you have a conversation with somebody who's looking at what they believe you're going to end up making for the year, and they can show you how to get you inside of these tax brackets so you're paying less taxes by doing financial planning as opposed to just doing your taxes at the end of the year. Those are the conversations that you need to be having. I tell people all the time, if all you have is some W-2s, you can probably just go on to what is it? What is the
like the TurboTax or like the e-file? There's like the e-file
and stuff like that. But if you own property, if you own a business, you really need to have somebody who knows what they're doing, who can help you navigate how to help you, save money on your taxes. So you really need to have somebody who can help you, who understands all of these things to get you inside of these brackets and to help you save money on your taxes.
All right. Sounds good, Eric. Thank you, Eric.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us right now on the Financial Turtle with Eric Anderson, Mastering Your Money with Eric Anderson. So we'll see you guys next week.
All right. I appreciate it, Isaac.
All right.
All right.
All right. Bye. Signing off, you guys.